My name is Rex Jarrett. I am the Director of Professional Programs here at UMBC, and you are here for the UMBC Pause and Pivot webinar series for impacted federal workers. Today's session is on uncertainty to opportunity. So we're going to focus this session around designing a career resilience plan for the upcoming year. We know 2025 has been a very tumultuous year for a lot of us, a lot of changes, a lot of curveballs. So what this session is about, if you attended any of the previous Pause and Pivot sessions, is we talked about how to build up your skills, look for other opportunities, and prepare yourself to kind of go out into what the new job market is. Today's session is more about moving away from theory and talking about how to prepare or make actionable steps for what may come next year. So again, my name is Rex Jarrett, Director of Professional Programs. This is my new headshot there. And why are we here today? All right. So we all know federal workforce has been in transition, whether that due to uncertainty across specific roles, whether it's around the existence of agencies and sectors. There's a lot going on, a lot of career disruption. It's real and it's becoming increasingly more common. I believe 227,000 federal workforce jobs have been changed or removed in this calendar year. So this session is about moving from a reaction to that reality to building forward rather than just bouncing back from it. You know, a lot of emotion, financial, and even sometimes identity challenges come with career transitions. Some of you have been working in roles for 10, 20, 30 years. So, you're not just John, you're not just Sarah, you are the manager of XYZ. You are the leader of this unit, and you've done that for a long time, and you've done it well. So no longer having that being a part of folks' identities can be difficult to navigate. So we want to kind of focus today on resilience, on moving on from the desire of just wanting things to return to how they were, because the labor force never really moves backwards, but instead focusing on how to adapt forward, how to build our capacity to respond to change in this moment, and any changes may come in the future. So the session's goal to help you transform uncertainty into structured, actionable career resilience plans. So everything we do today is kind of a ladder up to a singular outcome. Again, all of our sessions are available online for your viewing. And if you take a look at those sessions, you'll see that there's almost like a curriculum on how you can build your digital brand, how to reinvent yourself within the job force, how to present yourself in an interview, how to talk about your work across different industries, disciplines, or sectors. All of that is kind of a ladder that we've been building on up until this session, where we hope that you'll leave with a clear sense of where you are right now, whether you've been impacted by the layoffs or you believe you will be, have a clear idea of where you want to go and what realistic steps you can take to get there. It's research shows, there was a 2023 study, I believe, done where it said that those who engage in structured reflection and goal setting report higher reemployment confidence and better long-term outcomes. So even if you've not been impacted, but if you have been, actively engaging in sessions like this are the kinds of things that allow you to keep your confidence so that when you enter those interviews, you are still the person you've always been. You still believe in all the work that you've done. You still believe in all your capabilities. You're able to speak about those things in the way of someone who has those understandings during the interviews. So, today is not the end all be all. It's not about having all the answers today. It's about just creating a plan that can evolve as conditions change, and they will change. We know that there's a new headline every day. So what we're hoping you'll walk away with is being able to understand career resilience, be able to identify the lessons, strengths, and growth areas for you as an individual and a professional, and then creating the plan. I'll share at the end of this a link to a worksheet that we gave out during last session about future-proofing, making a future-proof career map. And that was from the last session. But then today's session, we'll have another one for career resilience planner. And that's what we're going to be working on throughout the, hopefully what you all be working on maybe over the holiday break or just being able to tackle for a bit. So setting the stage here. Resilience is often, let's say, misrepresented as toughness or endurance, the ability to persist through what is uncomfortable. In reality, and especially for professionals, it's more so a skill set. It includes the ability to reflect, adapt, and make decisions based on that information during uncertain times. So, in today's world where everything is changing, resilience is one of those valuable career capabilities that you can develop, right? Because it's not just something that it can be innate in you, but because it's a skill, it's something that you need to develop. So, uncertainty is not necessarily the enemy. It unpreparedness is. Prior preparation is what will get us to where we want to be. So, reflection poll. Feel free to throw it in the chat, but in the year 2025, right? Take a moment, really reflect, and think about what changes you experienced that you could not have predicted. The goal is not to judge those moments and kind of, berate yourself for not seeing it coming, but to learn from them. So reflection is the first step in turning disruption into direction. So I would really like for, I know folks are usually checking these things out on their phone. Maybe you're at the gym or you're taking a walk around your neighborhood. It's kind of cold, so maybe not today, a little sunnier than the rest of the week, but really take a moment. If you can, throw it in the chat. What is one professional shift you did not see coming? And yes, I have 5 options up there on the screen, but it doesn't have to be one of those. But if it is one of those, please do share. All right. Thank you, Jay. Realizing I was tired of the 60-hour work week grind. Well, I will say, Jay, thank you for your work and everything that you were doing for your community and your country. Because, working an extra 20 hours every week, I'm sure you were doing work that impacted the lives of someone or some community. And we appreciate you for that. And in the chat, I'm also throwing in the career resilience planner that we'll be working on today. And then if you were not here present for last week's session, this is the worksheet from last week. So if you feel like you just want to have a comprehensive understanding what you're going to do moving forward, both of those are in the chat. Awesome. All right. Well, moving on, I appreciate those who did share their sentiments. What is career resilience? So, we talked about resilience is not just the ability to persist through difficulty. It's an ability that you can develop, that you can coach up in yourself. So even if you don't feel like it's something that's innate in you, if you can identify it, you can figure out what parts of it you need to work on, coach, or build up. So career resilience is an ability to absorb disruption without losing direction, right? Getting caught off guard by something and still knowing what it is or how it is you are going to move forward. You might not know where the finish line is going to be, but you know the general direction that you need to be heading in. Being able to reimagine your path when circumstances change. It's great to be a planner. It's great to have backup plans, but sometimes the backup plan and the plan do not work out. Are you able to adapt in that moment? And being able to do that for your career resiliency is also going to be something that helps you when it comes to re-entering the job market, because AI is going to impact the way that we do everything. So if you've learned how to do your job or do a role or do a skill in a certain way, the chances that it's going to change in the next 5 years is extremely high. It is extremely high. So if you're the kind of person who gets kind of set in your ways or locked into your ways, really important you start to think about what is it that might change and how can I integrate that change into where I'm going and where I'm headed, and reinventing your skills, identity, and strategy over time. So again, if you were present for our last session, we talked about some of those things. And I'm going to bring up our slide from last session right here. Reflect, reskill, and reinvent. That's what we talked about when we were talking about how to prepare for the new job market. Today, because, who doesn't love 3-letter, 4-letter, enneagrams, the 3 R's of career resilience is what we're going to talk about today. So we spoke about reflecting, reskilling, and reinventing, but now we're going to talk about reflecting, reframing, and reinvesting. So we're preparing for a job market. Now we're preparing ourselves, right? We were last session talking about how to update our resumes and update our the way we talk about ourselves as professionals. But right now, we want to focus on or spend energy on how do we prepare ourselves as individuals to be better versions of ourselves or the new versions of ourselves that will be needed for the upcoming job market. So we're going to reflect on the experiences that we've had. We want to reframe any challenges that we've experienced as data. So whether or not that's a layoff or a demotion or a reorganization in your structure where maybe you don't have as much authority as you used to, we want to reframe all of those challenges as points of data and then reinvest the energy that we may feel in, being disappointed or feeling down into intention on how we can get ready for what's next. That's not to say that it's inappropriate or it's a waste of time to feel bad when things happen to us. We're still humans and we have to address the human part of ourselves first. So if we need to take a moment to say, this is something that I've done and I've been really good at for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, that's absolutely fine. But what the 3 R's are saying is once you've taken the time to reflect on that, you've captured the data or the learning moments from those unfortunate circumstances, don't only dedicate your energy onto reflecting on how it went wrong, reinvest in some of it into what you can do moving forward. So we're going to get into the practice of it, right? So first R, reflecting. What did 2025 teach you about your skills, values, and priorities? Was there something that you've been doing for a really long time that you thought would be indispensable for you and your organization, and it turned out it may not have been that way? Let's reflect on those skills and think about, from what I learned, what could I improve or what could I do differently? Maybe the thing that I thought was really important about my contributions isn't as important as I thought. And we can figure out, maybe how to pivot that energy. And this reflection, is not about self-criticism. It's not about blaming yourself about the changes that have taken place. Almost no one can see how 2025 shaked out. If you had a crystal ball, you probably still would have got it wrong, right? So it's not about self-criticism. It's about pattern recognition. What did you notice about your skills and how they were valued or talked about or compensated for? What did you recognize about the values of your organization or about the sector that you potentially work in? What did you recognize about priorities, whether they're your own or the organizations that you're looking at or the organizations that you may be applying to jobs for? And when you're focusing on what you recognize, take time to think about what energized you from those moments, what drained you, what made it feel like this is a good use of my time, or maybe I should have been invested elsewhere. And then think about what skills amongst all of that tumultuous, all those tumultuous waves, which of those skills did you feel were most transferable? This helps us make decisions based on evidence, right? Because we're reflecting on the data points, and then we're thinking about what we have, what remained valuable, what was being asked of us, no matter what jobs we were applying for, what sectors we're looking into. And then now we can make decisions based on those data points and the pattern recognition that we've seen. So reframing. It's funny. In the same way that AI is changing the world, right? Smartphones change the world. So I Googled pictures of reframing so I could throw it up in the slide, and cameras came up. And people still use cameras, right? They're still photographers. But reframing that is that almost everyone is walking around with a camera, a professional grade camera in their pocket. So, in 10 years, will anyone really recognize photography as something that you're doing with a Canon camera, or is it something you're just doing with your iPhone 25 or your Android 26? So reframing, setbacks can become data points. What's changing? What is the direction everything seems to be going in? Pause can be for preparation. Setbacks can be a part of our strategy. What skills did I strengthen during all of that adversity? And what doors may be open? And coming to things like this, who are some of the folks that I met that may be a part of my future professional network? And what I really kind of want to settle in is when you're thinking about how the setbacks can be points of reflection, when you're thinking about which skills maybe are not as valuable or you need to strengthen, and you're thinking about how your network has changed, think about what all this might be preparing me for. If you were framing the loss of a job or a loss of authority, a loss of an influence as a point in your story or a transition point in your story, and you're thinking about what's next, it might be a powerful way to reframe where you are to say, this is the moment that's preparing me for what's next. I'm still going to have all of my previous experiences, but I'm going to use them to inform the leader I will be in 2026 or in the future. So the last R, reinvest, you know, planting those seeds into new skills, into more networking opportunities, into new roles that may be adjacent to the path that you've been on for the last several years, and finding new ways to work. Again, whether that's integrating AI, whether it's leveraging different technologies and resources. I want folks to spend time thinking about where you will intentionally focus your energy next. Will it be just this upskilling or reskilling? Will it be just the networking and the opportunities? You know, Reinvestment is where momentum is built. This might be just learning how to use a specific tool, telling yourself that I'm going to be an Adobe specialist. I'm going to be a Salesforce specialist. I'm going to be the AI go-to whenever it comes to things for any organization that I join. The key point, though, on choosing where you will reinvest is the intentionality. Small focused investments compound over time. If you're doing something, eventually all those somethings will build up. But if you're waiting for the role to present itself to develop or reinvest in yourself, you are not evolving at the fastest pace that you possibly could be. And we know that's difficult. There's an emotional cycle of change, right? You're dealing with a lot of tumultuous waters, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of disruption and shock to everything that you've kind of maybe vested yourself into over the last couple of years. Feeling unsettled does not mean that you are failing. It just means that you're in the midst of something. You know, I would wager, universe, God, whatever permitting, today is not the end of any of our stories, right? Today is not the final page, the final chapter in any of our stories. There is still a future for us. And if you remember that this is not my final page, I plan on waking up tomorrow, then it's okay. And, feeling unsettled, feeling that shock and disruption, but it also means there's more to your story. So when you recognize that this is a transition point in your story, it's a little easier to navigate what comes next and feeling ready for it. So this is just something to have you all sit with. I shared already the career resiliency path or plan for 2026. In that plan, I want you all to take a second and think about everything we talked about for the last couple of slides and write it down. What skill, mindset, or relationship help you stay grounded this year? That might be your new foundation for 2026. I'm not going to, ask you all or challenge you all to put it in the chat, but if you did download the career resilience plan, make a copy of that plan, go in the upper left corner, click file, make a copy. Some of you might be on your phones, maybe something you do at home. We're also going to send out the slide deck so you can copy and paste the question at that point. But take this question and put it into your career planner or your career resilience planner and really write through it. Some people, typing is fine, but research shows that things that you write down tend to stick with you a bit more. So I would love to see, whenever you have a moment to do that. Again, I understand, technology is technology. A lot of us are just watching this from our phones, and that's okay. So building the career resilience plan. Again, you'll already have the worksheet, and there are going to be 4 core components of that worksheet and of the remainder of this session. A career health check, growth zones, micro goals, right? Accomplishments, small wins, and a support system. So we were talking about mindset for a while. Now we're talking about structure. We did a lot of reflecting. That was the mindset. Now we're going into the practical outcomes and actions for ourselves. So these four components form the foundation of the career resilience plan. You don't need to perfect each one today. You just need to start. Okay. So if you've already been impacted by the layoffs, a career health check might be reflecting on what parts of my skill sets make the most sense. Growth zones, where are there opportunities for me to grow and get better? Micro goals, what small wins can I hold myself accountable to moving forward? And then your support system. So career health check. What skills are you using often in your roles? What skills are you enjoying using? What skills do the market still value? Right? We talked about the job market's going to change with AI. What skills do you have that are still going to be valued? I tell all of my employees, all the students that in my reporting structure, critical thinking will be the currency of the future. Do not give up your critical thinking to anyone or anything. AI is not infallible. It makes mistakes. So critical thinking will be the currency of the future in the way that if you have the background, experience, and knowledge to be able to check AI and say that this is correct, this is not, that is what I believe will be the most valuable skill moving forward. And then think about what skills are being outdated. What am I putting energy into that can be done with a simple query to Google or Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever other AI is coming out or coming around the bend? Awareness is the foundation of our resilience. We figure out where to put our energy. We're making the most strategic and clear goals for ourselves moving forward. So, um, career health check. 2, identifying growth zones. So your skills are adjacent to the market demand. Yes, those are the skills you need to focus on. Learning time is realistic. Don't tell yourself, I'm going to finish a 3-month course in a weekend. Yeah, maybe you might have more free time if you've been impacted, but being realistic with yourself, saying, I'm just going to spend 30 minutes or 20 minutes doing this every day. Showing up to a pause and pivot session that's 30 minutes to 45 minutes once a month or something like that. Those are realistic learning times for yourself. Set those for yourself and commit to them. So it's not a complete renovation. We're not saying that you need to learn how to code by February of next year. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the strategic pivots build on what you already know. So research what it is that you do well and figure out how you can expand it moving forward. Transitions are faster, more sustainable when you're building on what you know than starting from scratch. And I think we all kind of intuitively know that. So I was really excited to throw this one in the slides. So the micro goals, right? In Super Mario, you can get those mushrooms. Some of them make you super big, some of them make you super small. But all along the way, you're collecting coins and defeating baddies and before you make it to the end of your goal. So tell yourself, commit to yourself that you're going to, do a short course. You're going to take a particular action, set a timeline, have indicators of the success or what success looks like for yourselves. Large goals can feel overwhelming. Again, if you tell yourself, I'm going to be a computer programmer, I'm going to be a data analyst by the end of Q1 next year, you might find yourself still sitting on your hands, come spring break or, come summer of next year. Micro goals create momentum. Momentum is what is important. Critical thinking is the currency of the future, and micro goals create momentum to get you into the future and the best version of yourself. So just kind of commit to yourself to complete one course, one project, some kind of informational overview that can shift your confidence and potentially open new doors. If you don't know where to start with Pause and Pivot. All of our sessions are recorded. Go back to our landing page and review all of the recordings and use that almost as a curriculum for yourself to, maybe get started on your resiliency plan on how you're going to get yourself ready for whatever's next. But please just commit to something. There's a lot of stuff out there. There's Coursera, there's Google courses. A lot of institutions have free courses, short courses, micro credentials, including UMBC. Just commit yourself to doing something. LinkedIn Learning. Just, get yourself out there. Next, your support system. I don't know if anyone's ever given this shot. I have not, but maybe I'll ask my family to participate over Christmas or the holidays. But Find a system that works for you, mentors, peers, professional communities like this one, or just maybe potentially on LinkedIn, and institutional support. We're fortunate to be in the DMV or in the state of Maryland, where a lot of our government bodies are offering resources and support to those who've been impacted. Take a look at those things. Outside of Pause and Pivot, we have a lot of resources in our career center that are helping folks, get jobs. I'm really happy to see that a lot of people who've come to these sessions have come back to say, hey, I was unemployed for the first time in 25 years, and I'm starting my first day at my new job, or it's my first day at a new job for the first time in, 2 decades. So, lean into those resources and know that they are there for you. So the planner, again, it's already in the chat. Please read through it. Section 1 was about reflecting, figuring out what your strong skills are, your values, where your energy needs to be. Section 2 was reframing, figuring out what experiences you've had, what you learned from those experiences, again, making them data points, and then figuring out how you can use that moving forward. Section 3 was the career health check. Figuring out what skills are going to remain relevant, figuring out how to remain or maintain your confidence. Again, those micro goals, market awareness, figuring out where your sector is going and where the job market is going in general, and making sure that skills that you're looking after or chasing after align with that, and then leaning onto your support system for strength. So that's section 3. And then section 4 was growth zones. And, we talked about that, figuring out what 2 things that I'm going to dedicate myself to getting better at, and how that, and detailing why it makes sense for you to do that. Because you might say, it makes sense for me to really emphasize my skills in arithmetic. Maybe all the arithmetic you'll be doing any jobs before it can be done on a calculator. So it's important, your 5th grade teacher is going to be really happy that you're working on your arithmetic, but is that really the best use of your time moving forward? So when you figure out those growth zones, explain why those growth zones make the most sense for you moving forward. So opportunity mapping. Again, a lot of research is done because we're not just writing things for the sake of writing them. Look into labor market trends, figure out transferable skills, where there might be emerging roles or adjacent opportunities for you. Opportunity mapping connects your own self-knowledge with the market reality. Maybe the things that I'm best at just really aren't valuable anymore. Or maybe folks don't know how valuable they are because no one has yet tailored them to where the job market is going. So this step of mapping kind of ensures that your plan is not only aspirational and making you feel better, it's also realistic. It's also making sure that you're expending energy towards things that will further you. All right. Adjacent possibilities. So I kind of mentioned in passing during the previous slide, building on existing strengths, it only requires partial reskilling. But what's really important is you are figuring out how to transfer things you're already good at into places where that value may have not been seen yet. And that allows you to also transfer all of the credibility that you have from your years or decades of experience. So this is a skill that you used every day, maybe in, contract procurement, and it may not seem as relevant to, let's say, launching new apps or programs. Figuring out how it does can make you valuable, and then they know in seeing that value that John, Sarah, Jack has 10, 20 years of doing it, of working with that value, and will be of a value to our organization. So just thinking about aligning purpose and market. We want to feel better about what's going on, about ourselves, because that confidence will show up in our interviews. But we have to also be really intentional about where is the market actually moving. Career resilience lives in between these 2 things. So just, kind of sticking true, like we have to reflect on the reality of where we are. Going back to our career resilience planner. Again, if you're on a phone, completely fine. You'll get the slide deck. But if you don't, I really would like for folks to take a moment to write to themselves. In 2026, I will create an opportunity for myself by doing what? So give yourself an action step. The commitment doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to solve all of your problems. It just needs to be honest. What is something that I will commit to doing in 2026? Writing it down increases the, chances for follow through and your clarity, your own subconscious understanding of what that next step is. So that would go into your so your section 7 and 8, your opportunity mapping and your commitment statement. Again, if you don't have, if you're doing this from your phone, I understand it'd be difficult to do both, but do spend some time with it, and maybe you rewatch this recording and go through the worksheet in real time with yourself. Next, a closing reflection. How has your thinking shifted? What feels more possible for you now than, an hour ago or before, 11:30, 11:45 when you were getting ready to join us today? You know, Take a moment to notice what's changed about your framing of where you are, and just know that even one new insight can inform better decision making for you moving forward. And if you've got your worksheet and you've got a computer and you've got a piece of paper or you've got everything up, feel free to write that down and think about it. But take some time to really tackle this worksheet. Next, pause and pivot principles. Resilience, reinvention, readiness. You're going to see this as a theme in all of our recordings, and even just, last week. So meeting uncertainty with steadiness or steadfastness, knowing that uncertainty isn't the enemy, unpreparedness is. And resilience isn't just moving through difficult times, it's having a direction in difficult times or uncertain times. Reinvention, giving yourself permission to grow. You may have been the number one in XYZ for however many years, but allowing yourself to pursue or evolve into a new identity, or being willing to say, I was the go-to person for XYZ, but now what I am is I'm the person most willing to grow, most willing to research, most willing to learn. Be willing to reinvent yourself and, enjoy the journey and discovering that new part of yourself. And then just readiness, staying prepared. So even if you have not been impacted, this plan can still help you. If that ever does come, you're not lost in the confusion of the new waves. You're like, I have my plan. I have my, future proofing plan. I've got my career resilience plan. It's now time for me to enact them. And that moves into commitment. Again, choose one commitment over the next 30 days of what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, how you're going to stay connected, and just take that action. And that's going to be part of section 9 of the worksheet, doing quarterly check-ins or weekly check-ins with yourself to say, what progress have I made? I would strongly suggest making a Google Calendar invite to yourself and making it reoccur, almost like a meeting that you would have work, saying, every, I don't know, maybe Wednesday, almost like a pause and pivot session. It's like pause and pivot follow-up, and link the worksheets to that event on your calendar. So, self follow-up or self accountability session, and have it for 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. every Wednesday. And you have this worksheet linked to it. You have the other worksheet linked to it, and you go through and say, like, what progress have I made since the last time I had this meeting with myself? What have I learned since the last time I had this meeting with myself? Does any of it worthy of celebration? Have I done something that's noteworthy to myself? Or did I simply do something to check off a box? This is how your intention becomes action. It's very easy to get stuck in the action of the intention point, right? I intend to be a better version of myself. I intend to learn more. But if we write down what it is we're going to do and hold ourselves accountable to it, it's much more likely that intention becomes action. And that action will lead to the transformation of not only your own career, but yourself. So that'll wrap up today's session. I'll say, please stay connected with UMBC. I know it's the end of the year. My apologies. I'm a little drained myself. Like I said, graduation was earlier today, so my voice sounds a little, raspy. I was out there cheering for our students and, congratulating them on the next season of their lives. But thank you for everyone who was able to attend today. Please, we're here to support you. The Pause and Pivot series is born out of UMBC's commitment to our community. Our students our students, and we love them. And that's what campus is here, to house our students. But we are also a member of this community. And we know that Maryland has the highest concentration of federal workers per capita in the entire country. So we want to make sure that we're here for you all as you're navigating these difficult times, or you're just navigating difficult or tumultuous times at work. So please stay connected with us. I'm going to throw up on the screen here. Um, just, there's True Grit, our mascot, but I was going to throw up a QR code. Please, again, it's very difficult to do if you're on your phone, but if you take a screenshot, you'll be able to click the QR code and just fill out the survey there. Lets us know what went really well with this session. What do you feel like maybe could have been, better? What do you think we could improve? What kinds of sessions do you want to see in the future? All of that really helps us to make sure that we're not just hopping on here and talking to ourselves for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, but really that we're speaking to the things that will help you as members of our community. And with that, I'm just going to say thank you. Thank you for showing up, and thank you to your future self for showing up. Again, resilience is not what you have after the storm. It's what you build while you're in the storm. So we want to reframe our mindsets when they're just thinking about, man, when this is all over, when the administration changes, when the federal government changes its stance, when I finally get this new job. All of that might be true, but resilience isn't just figuring out what you're going to do when it's all over. It's what you're doing in the midst of it. So let's figure out what we're going to build. Agree to those micro credentials or those micro goals, accomplish them, take that action, and evolve into the new version of yourself or your new career, before the storm is over, so that you can hit the ground running. And just because UMBC is our one institution, and we always want to make sure that we're sharing our references and citing our work, that's just, everything that was used today to create this session. So that is it. I will, again, have this sent out to you all as a recording. You will get the slide decks. I'll make sure that the worksheets are also included, but I thank you all so much for attending today. I appreciate your time. Hope that everyone has a wonderful holiday season and a happy new year. And we'll be seeing you.